Welcome to the Flex Forward Podcast, where grit meets growth. With your host, Nick Espinette, bringing you stories of resilience, reinvention, and the real climb to success.
All right, everyone, welcome to the Flex Forward Podcast. Today, we're joined by Sandy Murphy. Sandy is quite a dynamic young lady. She's got a whole lot of things going on. She's a counselor, a therapist, professor, mentor, coach, and credentialing provider. She's also the founder and executive director of Fair Care Center, which has some other things underneath it that she does, and I'll let her kind of explain some of that. Sandy, thank you so much for joining me and my listeners on the Flex Forward Podcast. Can you give a little more information about you and what it is you do at your different activities and companies?
Well, thank you so much for allowing me to come here today. I'm just really pleased about what I've seen you do already. But most of the things that I've done, you can see there on LinkedIn. There are some of those links that I've sent out. But I am a counselor and therapist in both realms, both secular and faith-based. And so the actual Building Better Families that is on LinkedIn is there to be able to help those who would desire faith-based or secular counseling. And so with a host of those things that I do, I mean, as you said, most of this came from what I suffered here to my face.
And can you maybe touch on what you suffered for those that may only be listening through the audio version?
Okay. Well, at 18 years old, I wound up with a man who became very violent. I was with him about a year and a half as far as being married was concerned. But at age 15, I got pregnant and then wound up having to go to a pregnant mom school in the second birth of my child. And after I had the second child, he became very abusive. And he just really started to say things and remind me that what I better not do, anything that made him feel uncomfortable or suspicious about me. But I was trying to get to the meat of the matter. He met me where we lived at because he actually had beat me up maybe like a week before and said that he promised that he would never do it again and asked me to come back. I did. And when I came back, he moved me to another side of the city here in Houston. It's called Pasadena, Texas. So that was pretty far away from my family. And so when he moved me over there, of course, I wound up thinking about where can I work to not just be at home every day. So I found a job in the maintenance department there and hired my sister who lived with me and gave her a job because I felt if she stayed there with me and I go to work, then maybe he wouldn't beat me up, you know. But needless to say, on Labor Day weekend, he took the kids out. And when I came home, the house was a wreck. And I said, wow, I got to clean this all up. And I got to go work in the morning. He said, no, you get in here and we fix to make love. And I said, please let me clean up first and then I'll come in. He said, no, now. And when I turned to say, well, let me at least take a bath. When I said, let me take a bath, he took some brass knuckles and hit me in the back of my head and blood went everywhere. I don't know where the brass knuckles came from, but he did. And then right away, I was like, I got to get out of here. My sister was on the phone. I said, when I come out with my work jacket on, just run, So I turned the water on to make it sound like that I was taking a shower, got my work jacket, and started to run through the apartment complex. It was 3 stories high.
Oh, goodness.
And because I was a maintenance manager there, I had keys to every door, okay, and people's door and houses too.
Mm-hmm.
So when I did, we took out running and everything, she just dropped the phone and started running. When we ran, he eventually came out of the house with this shotgun. And I was like, she said, he's got a gun. And so I went, what? So we started opening doors and going in people's houses and they're saying, what are you doing? Please go out. And I'm saying, call the police. He's got a gun. Long story short, we stay all night in one of the apartments there. And when I stayed all night there, he decides he's going to call me that next day after I left and went home to mom, called the police and everything and got the kids out. He said, if you don't come back here, and this was like a Thursday, he said, if you don't come back home, you'll be dead by Friday. And I said, yeah, right. You just mad 'cause I'm not coming back. So I just hung the phone up, went to work the next day. Remember, where I work is in our apartments. I
Okay.
went to work that day, and he put me. He came to work, and my sister said, "I seen him in the apartments." And I said, "Really?" She said, "Yeah, he's rolling around." And I said, "Okay, well, it was time for us to get off." So my boss, I said, "I see he's outside. Please hide me in your closet and tell him I'm not here." And he said, "Well, he see your car." I said, "Just tell him, please, no." Well, he came in and pulled a gun on the staff and everybody and told, "Where is she? Where is she?" So I was in the closet begging God, "Please, Lord, don't let him hurt nobody." And the boss said, "She's not here. I'm going to call the police. You need to get out." And so he finally left when he said he called the police. The boss got me out and, watched for me to get on the freeway. We got on the freeway and he was waiting on me on the 610 loop freeway where there was with the Ship Channel Bridge. He stayed there and waited on me because that's the way we went home. And
Hmm.
he was outside the car and he started shooting the windows out of the car. I just started, going really fast. My sister was screaming. Long story short, again, rewind up. He didn't just start going in and out of the freeway with just high speed chase, cars trying to block him from getting to me and all that. Then I saw an exit that was the next exit off of the Ship Channel Bridge. And I said, "Lord, just let me get down here." But as soon as I looked up to try to see that I could get over the bridge to take the first exit, he shot and I went ducked in time and there was a big hole in the door and I went, "Lord, just don't let me die on this freeway, please." He let me get off. When I got off the freeway, the Lord did. And when I got the freeway, there he was trying to drive up on the side of the road like we did up off the exit. When he
Yep.
got out of the car, my sister said, "You need to go, you need to go." I said, "Well, I can't go yet. Let him get out of the car first. When we get out of the car, then I can drive off really fast. When he gets out, that'll give us time. He has to run back to his car."
Sure.
And she said, "Okay, but he's getting close." I said, "Wait till he gets to the back of the car. When he gets to the back, he has to go while we're back to his car." And then she said, "Okay, go." He's at the back. I hit the pedal. The car died.
No, no.
It wouldn't even crank. It wouldn't even say a dot,
Mm.
nothing. And so he reached in, got me out, and started to beat me, got on top of me. I fought for my life that day. He choked me, and I said, "Please leave me here for the kids." He said, "No, if I can't have you, then no one else will." He took the 12 gauge shotgun, he choked me unconscious first, put it between my eyes, and at that time, I guess before he pulled the trigger, my head turned, and it blew my face out that way. But I was only 18. I bless God. So from that, I have been working with families, children. I done wrote over 50 books, just doing healing and leadership equipping for the churches and for family. We got a lot of these children that have literally lost their minds dealing with what I went through as a child. I mean, I was only 18.
Yeah, no, what a tragic story. But it looks like it's come to a good ending that or not hasn't ended yet, but it's moving in the right direction where you're out helping others and you've grown from it. What I think that's just a tremendous story to share with even people our age and younger people that can grow from this and say, hey, doing the right thing and picking yourself up when you've had a challenge. So thank you for sharing that. I know that had to be hard to go through and hard to share again. So I thank you
It's
so
better.
much.
Better now, thank God.
And so,
Mhm.
well, great. Well, in the counseling world, I think there's a lot of different people out there doing that. It looks like you've had a tremendous amount of success. I think probably what sets you apart is you've lived some of the tragedies that you can come and walk others through alongside others and maybe even help prevent some of it by, educating men and women, young men and young women to how to make better decisions. I think I saw on your website or on your LinkedIn that you also work with some anger management stuff, and setting those
Yes.
skills up that some of the younger generation may not be getting in their home, but it's
Right, right.
tremendously needed because it just ends up being a snowball or
That's right.
kind of a spinning out of. So what is something that is there anything else different that you may find easy that others find challenging or that sets you apart that helps you in this counseling world?
Well, like I said, I've been doing it over 50 years, and one of the things that I found is that between church and state, it has been very difficult to deal with the secular world because, of course, the spiritual world, they can't even fathom that. So we know medicine,
Mhm.
right? And we know therapy and sessions and all of that. But what I have found over the years for me dealing with children, the Lord has blessed me to be able to help the children because the children, we've got to talk to them on their level. And the medicine, I just don't agree with it right away. Some things you need to see if you can get them to talk it through, and some are going to have to be medicated.
Sure.
But most of these children, I believe what the Lord has allowed me to do the anger management because they are angry. They're angry at the daddy not being there and the mom with the new boyfriend or vice versa, and these divorces that has really just ripped, marriages apart. But most of the kids that come to me today, I have found dealing with the area of in the faith realm, in deliverance part of my ministry that I do with the children, a lot of these children are demon possessed.
Mm.
And it's coming from them open the doors from different things that they're watching on TV and doing all these different Ouija boards and all these different types of games. And so they are almost, you could say, at the verge of wanting to do suicide and everything else because these spirits are talking to them and actually standing by them in their bed or in the bed with them. So it's really bad. So they medicate. So what I found is just getting with the parent, getting them to understand, to entrust me with them. And I can say the Lord has blessed me to be able to get them to talk to some of the hardest children. They could say they're not going to talk. I've been taking them to therapy. They won't talk. The Lord has given me, I think we call it anointing in the faith world, to make them talk. I know how to get them to tell me whatever they feel that they would never imagine that these kids are going through. And the Lord has, allowed me to be able to get the kids to talk. I bless God for that because these kids have to
Yeah.
have an escape way.
No, that's you. It sounds like you have truly been blessed with a talent and a gift that help children, and what a blessing for your community that you can come in and help in this area, and everybody that you're touching. Is there and you mentioned before we got online that you have some books. You have things that you maybe some books that people could read, or you can share some of the stuff that you use that can help maybe somebody that's listening that's not close enough to come visit with you. Is there a way that they can read a book or some of your get online and connect with you?
Well, one of the two books, I think I only brought two in here. Let's see. Yeah, I only brought two in here because I got over 50. But these are the ones that people say that they can't put down. That's the story. Too bad it wasn't a dream. Okay. And this is one of the books that sell a lot because I just told the naked truth of everything in there. But this is the one that I just finished. And I believe it'll be a good guide for both the church and for counselors. It's the Train the Trainer guide. It's the trauma sensitive witnessing, which
Okay.
means that we got to talk to them, not necessarily from the faith because of the church and state, but you need to know how to talk to them, giving them the encouragement and strength from where they've been. So we have to always remember that a lot of these children have so much trauma from secret incest and so many other things and abuse, because that's where I was. My mother, I was a black sheep. And so when we have people that come from places like that, with parents that were, black sheep, then they treat their children like black sheep. So it's just a cycle that we got to be able to look at the trauma of the situation, not
Hmm.
talking about trauma counseling. I'm talking about being that witness to that person that they can talk to you about anything. And this is what this is to transform those things out of the mind so that heart can get better and not be hard and process that pain.
Well, yeah, and I think that in lots of communities that is a challenge with just kids that if it happens to them, then they're going to perpetuate it on. It just keeps going. So with you, what you're doing, it sounds like will break that cycle and
Yeah.
helping not only that child or person at that moment, but their children in the future too. As
Right.
they get so it's helping down the line a lot. So what a blessing.
Yeah.
So those books definitely worth checking out. So as you've kind of made your progress along and helped others, have you had any? What's one of your biggest hurdles or challenges you've had to overcome?
Before I got to this point, or wow,
just all the way from
all
when
the
you
way.
first started doing counseling to now.
Well, my biggest challenge was just trying to get people to understand the balance and why that has always been very difficult for
Mm.
me. For those that are licensed therapists, I'm not a licensed therapist. I'm one that I don't charge children at all for counseling. I just don't feel like I should. And first of all, what they give by the state is not worth even the time to bill it. So
Paperwork,
I
yeah.
don't charge children, school-age children. I don't charge them. But one of the hardest parts was trying to get people who are in the Christendom to understand that you can pray, say, come out of here, lesbian, come out of here, gay, come out of here, demon, all you want. But until you can understand that these things have to be processed out through conversation. And that's been my hurdle, where people are always ready to start casting something out of somebody, or a demon, and calling it a demon. And so then they shut down. Okay. So I don't use those terms. I just let them talk to me, just like I'm talking to you. And that's about it. And then they start to tell me their deepest secrets and pain. And then I use my regimens, not faith, because I don't read scriptures to them or anything. I just have a way to talk to them so they can talk back to me. And so that's been my hardest hurdle, to get the parents to believe that, until they get the kid to come, and then they go, well, yeah, I can't believe they're talking to you, and it seems like there's a breakthrough. Well, that's because I start telling them they got a demon and we don't know what we're going to do with them. I don't talk like that, and I tell them don't do that no more.
Well, and it sounds like as you have more success, other parents will share with their friends maybe, and family members, things like that, that the success that you're having, and word will spread and people will seek you out more. It's so great you're doing all that. So, as we're starting to wrap up the interview, do you have any exciting plans or initiatives in the next 6 to 12 months?
No, the only thing I'm getting ready to do right now is plan some things where I can actually have something to do more often with the teenagers. Okay. And that is to be able to have some group talks with them, so that they can really talk about the thing that nobody wants to hear, regarding their, sexual identity and all of that. Because I've done that over the years. It's been really good, because a lot of parents didn't believe that child was gay, and they exposed it right there in the meeting. Because I had a strategy to get them to be able to come out of that prison of their mind, that now you have a chance to tell mom, this is who I am. But I believe one of the greatest things I believe that anybody can do now to help these children, to help globally, for what we got so much mental health that's going on today, is to think about, what would you do? What about your life? And to think about faith and family and mental health globally. It's off the charts now, right? And so my main goal is to always tell people, my main scripture that I love is Psalms 119:71. It was good for me that I was afflicted, that I might learn thy statutes. So like I always say, we got to kill it before it gets grown. And a lot of the kids today, these things have grew up and nobody tried to take it down from the root. And I thank God for the opportunity just to share this little bit with you today.
No, and thank God you're helping the children and the future families too. So I think it's really going to have some benefits. Well, Sandy, thank you so much for joining me and some of your time today and sharing your tips and insights. If people would like to connect or learn more about what it is you do, what's the best way to reach out to you or connect?
Well, probably email.
Email or your LinkedIn?
Probably email or LinkedIn there. Right. It would be better LinkedIn. Let me know they talked to me here. They saw me here or heard me here.
Okay.
And so I won't ignore it, because I get a lot of those, so I can't answer everybody. So I appreciate that they say I was here on Flex Forward, and then I'll know to try to hurry up and answer them.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. It's great information. Everyone, thanks for listening. Be sure to like and share this episode and pass it along to your friends. Thank you, Sandy, so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Keep up the great work.
Thanks for listening to the Flex Forward podcast. If you've got grit, growth, and a great story, visit flexforwardpodcast.com/guest to apply and join us on the show.